She trusted him with her heart, but the billionaire wanted more than love. The unexpected encounter. The November rain in Chicago had a particular bite to it that Tuesday morning, the kind that seemed to seep through every layer of clothing and settle deep in your bones. Natalie Brooks pulled her worn jacket tighter as she hurried through the pre-dawn darkness toward Brewster's Coffee House, her sneakers splashing through puddles that reflected the amber streetlights. At 22, Natalie had learned that life rarely followed the script you wrote for it. 3 years ago, she'd been a promising pre-med student with parents who worked double shifts to afford her tuition. Now she was still in medical school but barely hanging on, juggling classes with 2 jobs to keep herself and her younger brother Marcus afloat after a drunk driver had stolen their parents from them in one devastating instant. "You're late, Gregory." The morning shift supervisor barely looked up from his clipboard as she rushed through the employee entrance. "Sorry, the bus, just get to your station. We open in 10. Natalie tied her dark hair into a quick ponytail and grabbed her apron, forcing herself to smile. She'd learned that in customer service your problems had to disappear the moment you stepped behind that counter. The early morning rush was particularly brutal on Tuesdays, with financial district workers flooding in for their caffeine fix before the markets opened. By 7 a.m. the shop was packed. The line stretched to the door, and the espresso machine hissed like an angry dragon as Natalie worked with practiced efficiency. She was reaching for another cup when it happened, a collision of circumstances that would change everything. The man who walked in at 7:23 a.m. didn't look like he belonged in their modest coffee shop. Everything about him screamed money, from his perfectly tailored charcoal suit to the way he carried himself with an unconscious authority that made people automatically step aside. His dark hair was slightly damp from the rain, and when his steel-gray eyes swept the room, Natalie felt an inexplicable shiver that had nothing to do with the cold. Vincent Blackwood was having the kind of morning that made him question why he'd decided to walk to the office instead of taking his usual car. His driver had called in sick, and Vincent had thought the walk would clear his head after another sleepless night. At 31, he controlled a business empire worth billions, but lately, the weight of that success felt more like a prison than a triumph. He ducked into the coffee shop on impulse, drawn by the warmth and the rich aroma that reminded him of simpler times, before his father's death had thrust him into a world of hostile takeovers and boardroom battles. Next, the young woman behind the counter called out and Vincent stepped forward. Their eyes met and something shifted in the air between them. She had the kind of face that belonged in a Renaissance painting, delicate features framed by dark hair, with warm brown eyes that held a depth of experience unusual for someone so young. But it was the way she looked at him, or rather didn't look at him, that caught his attention. No recognition, no calculating gleam, just polite professionalism tinged with exhaustion. "What can I get you?" Natalie asked, trying to ignore the way his presence seemed to fill the space around him. "Large black coffee, and—" He paused, studying the menu board with an expression of someone trying to decipher a foreign language. "What do you recommend?" "Depends." "Do you trust me?" The words slipped out before Natalie could stop them, and she immediately felt heat rise to her cheeks. A slow smile curved his lips, the first genuine expression she'd seen from him. "That's a dangerous question to ask a stranger." "It's just coffee," she replied, finding her footing again. "The worst that happens is you don't like it." "Then surprise me." Natalie turned to prepare his order, intensely aware of his gaze following her movements. She decided on a honey cinnamon latte, something sweet but not overwhelming. As she worked the steamer, another customer jostled her elbow, and everything happened in slow motion. The cup tipping, hot coffee arcing through the air, and landing squarely on that expensive charcoal suit. "Oh God, I'm so sorry." Natalie grabbed a handful of napkins, her hands shaking as she tried to blot the spreading stain. "I'm so sorry. Send us the cleaning bill or replacement cost, or it's fine." His voice was calm, even amused. "It's not fine. That suit probably costs more than I make in a month." The words tumbled out in her panic. "Gregory is going to fire me. I can't lose this job. My brother needs—" She stopped abruptly, horrified at herself for oversharing. Vincent caught her wrist gently, stilling her frantic dabbing. "Look at me." Reluctantly, she raised her eyes to his. "It's just a suit."
I have others.
"No one's getting fired because of an accident, but—" "What's your name?" "Natalie," she whispered. "Natalie." He said it like he was tasting the syllables. I'm Vincent, and honestly, this is the most interesting thing that's happened to me in months. Despite everything, Natalie found herself almost smiling. Getting coffee spilled on you is interesting? Meeting someone who looks at me like I'm just another customer instead of a walking bank account? Yes, that's interesting. Before she could respond, Gregory's voice cut through the moment. Brooks, what's going on here? It was my fault, Vincent said smoothly, turning to face the supervisor. I startled her. Entirely my responsibility. Gregory's expression shifted from anger to confusion, clearly trying to place this obviously wealthy customer. Sir, we're happy to cover any cleaning costs. That won't be necessary. Vincent pulled out a business card and handed it to Natalie, not Gregory. For the suit, he said, though his eyes said something else entirely. Then he placed a $100 bill in the tip jar and walked out, leaving Natalie staring at the card. Vincent Blackwood, CEO, Blackwood International, even Natalie, who paid little attention to business news, recognized that name. Blackwood International was one of the largest investment firms in the country. She just spilled coffee on one of Chicago's most powerful men. Do you have any idea who that was? Gregory asked, his voice pitched between awe and panic. Natalie couldn't answer. She was still staring at the card, at the personal cell phone number written on the back in bold handwriting, along with 2 words that made her pulse race. Call me. The rest of her shift passed in a blur. Every time the door opened, her heart jumped, half expecting to see him again. When she finally got home that evening to their cramped apartment in Bridgeport, Marcus was at the kitchen table, his leg brace propped against the wall while he worked on homework. You look weird, her 16-year-old brother observed, looking up from his textbook. Thanks, that's exactly what every girl wants to hear. No. I mean, different. Did something happen? Natalie pulled the business card from her pocket, staring at it for the 100th time that day. I met someone, Marcus's eyes widened. His sister never dated, too focused on school and taking care of him to have any kind of social life. And he's completely wrong for me in every possible way, but, Natalie sank into the chair across from him. But when he looked at me, it was like he saw me. Not the tired barista or the struggling student, but actually saw me. So call him. Marcus, he's a billionaire, with a B. We live in a 2-bedroom apartment with pipes that freeze every winter. We don't even exist in the same universe. Her brother reached across the table and squeezed her hand. Mom always said the heart doesn't care about logic. Natalie looked at her brother, so young but forced to grow up too fast just like her. Maybe that was the problem. She'd forgotten how to take chances, how to believe in possibilities beyond mere survival. That night, as rain drummed against her window, Natalie held her phone and stared at Vincent's number. She typed and deleted a dozen messages before finally sending a simple, "This is Natalie. About your suit, I'm truly sorry." The response came within seconds. "Have dinner with me tomorrow. Let me show you there's nothing to be sorry about." Her fingers hesitated over the keys. Every rational part of her brain screamed that this was a mistake. But her heart, her traitorous, hopeful heart, whispered something else. "Where?" she typed. "Somewhere you choose. Your world, not mine." And with those 6 words, Vincent Blackwood began to slip past defenses Natalie didn't even know she'd built. Dancing with danger. The following evening found Natalie standing in front of her closet, which seemed to mock her with its limited options. She'd chosen Giuseppe's, a small Italian restaurant in her neighborhood where her father used to take the family for special occasions. It was clean, warm, and unpretentious, everything Vincent's world probably wasn't. "Wear the blue one," Rosa, her best friend since high school, commanded from her perch on Natalie's bed. "It brings out your eyes." "It's just dinner," Natalie protested even as she pulled out the simple navy dress she'd worn to her mother's funeral. Strange how it could hold such sadness and yet be her best option for tonight. Right? Just dinner with a billionaire who tracked you down after you destroyed his probably $10,000 suit. Rosa's eyes gleamed with vicarious excitement. "This is like a movie, Nat. Movies have happy endings. Real life has bills and responsibilities." Natalie slipped into the dress, trying to ignore how her hands trembled slightly. "You're 22, not 40. It's okay to do something just because you want to." Marcus knocked on the door. "He's here." And holy crap, that car probably cost more than a house. Natalie's stomach dropped. Through her window, she could see a sleek black car idling at the curb, already drawing stares from neighbors. Vincent stood beside it, having traded his power suit for dark jeans and a simple black sweater that probably cost more than it looked. He was scanning the building's windows, and when he spotted her, he smiled, a real smile that transformed his usually serious face. "Breathe," Rosa whispered, squeezing her hand. "You deserve this, but did she?" Natalie wondered as she made her way downstairs. Did anyone deserve to have their world turned upside down by someone who could buy and sell entire companies before breakfast? "You look beautiful," Vincent said simply when she emerged from the building. "It's just Giuseppe's," she blurted out, then winced. "I mean, thank you. You look different, good different. I wanted to fit in better with your world." He opened the car door for her, and she caught a whiff of his cologne, something subtle and expensive that made her think of forests after rain. "I'm not sure you can." "Fit in, I mean." She gestured to the car. "This isn't exactly subtle. Would you prefer I came in a taxi?" "Maybe." He laughed, a rich sound that made something warm unfurl in her chest. "I'll remember that for next time. The assumption that there would be one should have annoyed her. Instead, it sent a thrill through her that she tried desperately to suppress. Giuseppe's was exactly as she remembered. Checkered tablecloths, candles stuck in wine bottles, and the comforting scent of garlic and tomato sauce. The owner, Mr. Giuseppe himself, greeted them warmly, though his eyes widened slightly at Vincent. "Natalie, it's been too long. Your papa's table is available if you'd like." She felt Vincent's curious gaze but nodded. That would be perfect. As they settled into the corner booth, Vincent studied the worn menu with genuine interest. "Tell me about this place. My father proposed to my mother here. They came every anniversary until—" She trailed off. "Until the accident. I looked you up," he admitted without apology. "I wanted to understand." "Understand what?" "How someone so young could have such old eyes. Now I know. The directness should have been invasive, but somehow it wasn't." "And you? What made the great Vincent Blackwood decide to slum it in a neighborhood coffee shop?" His gray eyes darkened. "My father died 3 years ago. Heart attack at his desk. He worked himself to death building an empire he never got to enjoy. Some mornings I wake up and wonder if I'm following the same path." "So you decided to get coffee from a different place?" "I decided to walk instead of ride, to look up from spreadsheets and actually see the city. And then I saw you. And I ruined your suit. Best thing that could have happened." He leaned forward. "Do you know what my typical day involves? People who agree with everything I say. Women who see dollar signs when they look at me, and endless meetings about money making more money. Then you looked at me like I was just another annoying customer during rush hour." Natalie laughed despite herself. "You were kind of annoying. Who doesn't know what they want to order? Someone who hasn't been in a real coffee shop in 5 years. The food arrived. Simple spaghetti and meatballs that Vincent approached with the same intensity she'd seen him examine the menu. Watching him try to twirl spaghetti properly was oddly endearing. "Here." She reached across the table, adjusting his grip on the fork. "Like this." Their fingers brushed and electricity shot through her. Vincent went very still, his eyes locked on hers. "Natalie," he said quietly, "I need to be honest with you." Her heart sank. Here it came. The proposition, the arrangement, whatever rich men offered girls like her. "I don't know how to do this," he continued. "Date someone real. Someone who doesn't want anything from me except me." "What makes you think I don't want anything?" "Because you tried to refuse my tip yesterday. Because you chose this place instead of trying to impress me. Because you're looking at me right now like you're not sure you should trust me, which is exactly right." "Then why should I?" "You shouldn't." His honesty was disarming. "I work too much. I've been told I'm emotionally unavailable. My last relationship ended when I found out she was more interested in my portfolio than my personality. I have enemies who would love to hurt anyone close to me. You should run far and fast, but I haven't been able to stop thinking about you since yesterday. About the way you smiled at that elderly customer who counted out exact change in pennies. The way you hummed while you worked. The way you looked panicked about your brother needing something." Natalie's walls crumbled a little more. "His medical bills. Therapy specifically. The accident left him with a permanent injury. Let me help." "No." The word came out sharp. "That's not—" "I don't want your money, Vincent." "Then what do you want?" The question hung between them like a challenge. What did she want? She'd been in survival mode for so long she'd forgotten how to want things beyond the next bill being paid. Time, she finally said. I want to know who you are when you're not being Vincent Blackwood, CEO. I want to know if you prefer coffee or tea, if you sleep on the left or right side of the bed, what makes you laugh. And I want you to know me. Not the tragedy or the struggle, but me. Vincent reached across the table and took her hand. Okay. Coffee usually, but tea when I can't sleep. Right side, always, even in hotels. And bad puns make me laugh, which is embarrassing for everyone involved. Despite herself, Natalie smiled. That's a start. They talked until Giuseppe's closed, Mr. Giuseppe gently shooing them out with a knowing smile. Vincent insisted on walking her to her door despite her protests about the neighborhood. This is me, she said unnecessarily at her building's entrance. Saturday, Vincent said. There's a charity gala. Black tie, horrible small talk, overpriced champagne for a good cause. Come with me. Vincent, I don't belong in that world. Neither do I, really, but having you there would make it bearable. I don't have anything to wear to something like that. That can be arranged. I won't be your pretty woman project. He stepped closer, close enough that she could feel his warmth. You're not a project, Natalie. You're the first real thing that's happened to me in years. Looking up into his eyes, she saw vulnerability that his money couldn't shield. I don't know how to be in your world. Then we'll figure it out together. He brushed a strand of hair from her face, the gesture achingly tender. Say yes. Against every rational thought, every warning bell in her head, Natalie heard herself whisper, yes. Vincent smiled, pressed a gentle kiss to her forehead, and walked back to his car. Natalie stood frozen, her skin tingling where his lips had touched, wondering what she'd just agreed to. The price of trust Saturday arrived like a storm Natalie couldn't outrun. Rosa had arrived early with a makeup kit that looked like it could supply a small theater production, while a dress Vincent had sent, despite her protests, hung on the back of her door like an expensive threat. It's designer, Rosa breathed, running her fingers over the midnight blue silk. This is actual haute couture. It's too much. Natalie stared at the dress, feeling like it might swallow her whole. Everything about this is too much. Or maybe, Marcus said from the doorway, balancing on his crutches. You deserve something good for once. The dress fit perfectly, which shouldn't have surprised her. Vincent seemed to have an uncanny attention to detail. It hugged her modest curves before flowing elegantly to the floor, with a neckline that was sophisticated rather than revealing. When she looked in the mirror, she barely recognized herself. The doorbell rang at exactly 7. Vincent stood there in a perfectly tailored tuxedo, but it was the expression on his face when he saw her that made Natalie's breath catch. You look, he started, then stopped. There aren't words. You clean up pretty well yourself, she managed, trying to calm her racing heart. The ride to the gala was quiet, Vincent holding her hand as if sensing her nervousness. The venue, a massive hotel in the Gold Coast, was lit up like a jewel box, with photographers clustered at the entrance. I should have warned you about the photographers, Vincent murmured as flashbulbs exploded around them. Why are they? I don't attend many public events. When I do, especially with someone new, it's considered newsworthy. Inside, the ballroom was overwhelming. Crystal chandeliers, ice sculptures, and enough jewelry on display to fund a small country. Natalie felt every eye turn toward them as they entered. Champagne? Vincent offered, signaling a waiter. Please, she whispered, then downed half the glass in one gulp. He squeezed her hand. You're doing beautifully. For the first hour, she almost believed him. Vincent introduced her simply as Natalie, deflecting questions about her background with practiced ease. She was starting to relax when a familiar voice cut through her fragile confidence. Vincent, darling. The woman who approached was everything Natalie wasn't. Tall, blonde, and wearing a dress that probably cost more than a car. She moved with the confidence of someone who'd never wondered if she belonged. Victoria. Vincent's voice was carefully neutral. And who's this? Victoria's green eyes assessed Natalie with surgical precision. Wait, don't tell me. Another charity case? How philanthropic of you, Vincent. Natalie is my date, Vincent said firmly. How quaint. Victoria's smile was sharp as glass. Tell me, dear, what do you do? I'm a medical student, Natalie replied, lifting her chin. How noble. Vincent always did have a savior complex. Remember that disaster with the art student, darling? What was her name? The one who thought she could social climb her way into. That's enough, Victoria. Vincent's voice could have frozen fire. I'm just making conversation. Though I do hope you've been honest with her about your expectations. We wouldn't want another misunderstanding. What expectations? Natalie asked, though she wasn't sure she wanted to know. Victoria's laugh tinkled like breaking glass. Oh dear, he hasn't told you. Vincent has very specific tastes. Innocent little things who make him feel like a white knight. Until he gets bored, of course. Victoria, you're drunk, Vincent said coldly. And bitter. It's been 2 years. Move on. 2 years since you decided I was too experienced for your tastes, you mean? Victoria's perfect composure cracked slightly. At least I wasn't naive enough to think you actually cared. She swept away, leaving Natalie feeling exposed and small. Around them, people pretended not to have witnessed the scene, but she could feel their judgment, their amusement. I need air, she managed. Vincent led her to a balcony overlooking the city lights. The cool air helped, but the damage was done. What did she mean? Natalie asked quietly. About your expectations? Vincent was quiet for a long moment. I ended things with Victoria when I realized she was more interested in the lifestyle than me. She's twisted that into something else. But the innocent thing, I won't lie to you. He turned to face her. I'm attracted to authenticity. To genuine people who aren't jaded by wealth. Victoria sees that as a fetish. I see it as wanting something real. And when I become less authentic, when your world rubs off on me, that won't happen. How can you be sure? He moved closer, cupping her face gently. Because you're stronger than this world. Because you've survived things that would break most people. Because you see me, not my bank account. Vincent, she whispered, her heart racing. I need to tell you something. What is it? I haven't. The words stuck in her throat. Understanding dawned in his eyes. Natalie, are you saying you've never been with anyone? She nodded, mortified. I know it's weird at my age, but between school and taking care of Marcus, I never. And now you probably think I'm some naive child who... He silenced her with a kiss. Not the gentle forehead kiss from before, but something deeper, hungrier, yet still achingly tender. When he pulled back, they were both breathing hard. You're not a child, he said roughly. You're the strongest person I know. And if you'll let me, I'll spend as long as it takes proving that this isn't about innocence or conquest or any of Victoria's poison. This is about you and me. Promise me, she whispered. Promise me you'll be gentle. Not just physically, but with my heart, because I don't think I could survive you breaking it. I promise, he said, sealing it with another kiss. The test of truth. The photos were everywhere by morning. Billionaire's Cinderella, screamed one headline. Vincent Blackwood's mystery woman, declared another. The worst one, plastered across a gossip blog. Read From Coffee Shop to Conquest, how a waitress captured Chicago's most eligible bachelor. Natalie stared at her phone in horror, scrolling through image after image from the gala. Someone had even found her Instagram, private though it was, and screenshots of her modest life were being dissected by strangers. Nat, Marcus knocked on her door. There are reporters outside. What? She flew to the window. Sure enough, a small cluster of photographers waited on the sidewalk. Her phone rang. Vincent. I'm so sorry, he said immediately. I'm sending a car. Pack a bag for you and Marcus. You can stay at my place until this dies down. I can't hide at your penthouse, Vincent. I have classes, work, all of which will be impossible with paparazzi following you. Please, Natalie, let me protect you from this. 2 hours later, she and Marcus were in Vincent's penthouse, which was exactly as intimidating as she'd imagined. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked the city. Priceless art adorned the walls, and everything was in shades of gray and black. This place is huge, Marcus whispered, his eyes wide. There are 3 guest suites, Vincent said. Choose whichever you like. Marcus, there's a gaming room down the hall that you might enjoy. Her brother hobbled off eagerly, leaving them alone. This is temporary, Natalie said firmly. Of course. Vincent pulled her into his arms. I'm sorry about this. I should have prepared you better. Is it always like this? No, it'll die down once they realize you're not going anywhere. The words hung between them, heavy with implication. Vincent, we've known each other a week. I know. This is insane. I know that too. He tilted her chin up. But tell me you don't feel it. this connection between us. She couldn't, because despite the rational part of her brain screaming warnings, she did feel it, a pull toward him that defied logic. That evening, as they ate takeout in his massive kitchen, Vincent had offered to cook before admitting he could barely make toast. Marcus's phone rang. His face went pale as he listened. "What is it?" Natalie demanded. "The hospital. My doctor wants to move up my surgery. The bones aren't healing, right? But—" He looked at his sister with stricken eyes. "The insurance won't cover the specialist they want to bring in." "How much?" Natalie asked, though she already knew it would be more than they had. 50,000, maybe more. Vincent set down his fork. "Done." "No," Natalie said sharply. "We've talked about this." "Natalie, it's Marcus's health." I said no. She stood shaking. "We're not your charity case. That's not what this is, isn't it? Poor girl can't afford her brother's medical care, so rich boyfriend swoops in to save the day?" "You're being proud at your brother's expense," Vincent said quietly. The words hit like a slap. Marcus looked between them, clearly torn. "Nat," her brother said softly. "Maybe we'll figure it out," she insisted. "We always do." But as she lay in the guest bed that night staring at the ceiling, she knew they wouldn't. The surgery was too expensive, the specialist too exclusive. Without Vincent's help, Marcus would suffer. A soft knock interrupted her spiraling thoughts. "Come in," she called, expecting Marcus. It was Vincent, looking unusually uncertain. "Can we talk?" She sat up, pulling her knees to her chest. "If you're here to convince me, I'm here to tell you a story." He sat on the edge of the bed. "When I was 15, my mother got sick. Cancer. My father had all the money in the world, but my mother was too proud to take it after their divorce. She died in a public hospital because she wouldn't accept his help." Natalie's anger deflated. "Vincent, I watched her choose pride over life. Don't make Marcus pay for your independence. If I take your money, what does that make me? Someone who loves her brother enough to accept help? That's all. And us? What does it make us?" He took her hand. "What we already are. Two people trying to figure this out together. I'm scared," she admitted, "of needing you, of depending on you, of losing myself in your world. Then we'll make our own world, one where you can be a doctor and I can be a CEO and we meet in the middle. Is that even possible? I don't know. But isn't it worth trying?" Looking into his eyes, seeing the vulnerability there, Natalie made a choice. "Okay, for Marcus." "For Marcus," Vincent agreed, though his eyes said for us. The heart surrender. The surgery was scheduled for the following week. Vincent had not only arranged for the best orthopedic surgeon in the country, but had also quietly handled every detail. Marcus would recover in a private room with round-the-clock care. Victoria, meanwhile, had not been idle. The morning of Marcus's surgery, Natalie's phone exploded with notifications. From Virgin to Vixen. The Truth About Natalie Brooks read the headline of a particularly vicious blog post. Someone, Victoria undoubtedly, had twisted Natalie's story into something sordid. Her virginity, which Vincent had kept private, was now public speculation. Her parents' death was painted as suspicious. Even Marcus's injury was questioned. "Don't read it," Vincent said, taking her phone. "Everyone will see this. Everyone at school, at work." Natalie felt sick. "I'll handle it." "How?" "You can't control the internet, Vincent. Watch me." Within hours, the blog post was gone, replaced with a retraction and apology. 3 other gossip sites that had picked up the story followed suit. Vincent's legal team was apparently as efficient as they were expensive, but the damage to Natalie's reputation was done. At the hospital, she could feel the stares, hear the whispers. Even the nurses treated her differently, some with disgust, others with a calculating interest that was almost worse. "I want to go home," she told Vincent after Marcus was settled post-surgery. "The penthouse? No, home, my apartment, my life. The photographers, I don't care anymore." She was exhausted, emotionally drained. "I need to think." Vincent drove her himself, the silence heavy between them. As they pulled up to her building, he finally spoke. "Are you ending this?" "I don't know," she admitted. "I just know I can't think straight when I'm with you. Everything happens so fast and I need to figure out who I am in all of this. Take all the time you need." He kissed her gently. "I'll wait." For 3 days, Natalie hid in her apartment. She attended classes, ignored the whispers, and spent her evenings at the hospital with Marcus, who was recovering well. Vincent respected her space, though she found evidence of his presence. Fresh groceries in her fridge, her landlord mentioning the next 6 months' rent had been paid, a new winter coat appearing in her closet. On the fourth day, Rosa staged an intervention. "Okay, enough," her friend declared, barging in with Chinese takeout. "You're miserable. He's miserable according to every business blog that's tracking his mood through stock fluctuations, and this is stupid. It's complicated. Love is supposed to be complicated, but you're making it harder than it needs to be." "I don't love him," Natalie protested weakly. Rosa gave her a look. "Girl, please. You've been moping around here like someone died. You love that man, and from what I can tell, he's completely gone for you too. But his world, screw his world. Make your own." That night, Natalie couldn't sleep. She found herself looking through the photos on her phone, pictures she'd taken of Vincent when he wasn't looking. One at Giuseppe's laughing at something Marcus had said. Another of him reading to Marcus in the hospital. Using different voices for the characters, even though her brother was 16 and mortified but secretly pleased. At 2 a.m., she gave up on sleep and drove to Vincent's building. The doorman recognized her and let her up without question. Vincent answered the door looking haggard, his usually perfect hair mussed, wearing only pajama bottoms. "Natalie, is everything okay? Is Marcus—" She silenced him with a kiss, pouring everything she couldn't say into the contact. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, she finally found her voice. "I love you," she said simply. "It's too fast and too crazy, and it makes no sense, but I love you. And I'm tired of being scared of that." Vincent pulled her inside, kicking the door shut. "Say it again." "I love you." He backed her against the wall, his hands framing her face. "I love you too. From the moment you spilled coffee on me and looked like the world was ending." "That's ridiculous," she laughed through tears she hadn't realized were falling. "Everything about us is ridiculous, but it's also real, the most real thing in my life." He kissed her again, deeper this time, and Natalie felt the last of her resistance crumble. "Vincent," she whispered against his lips. "I'm ready." He pulled back, searching her eyes. "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure of anything." He lifted her into his arms, carrying her to his bedroom. The city lights twinkled through the windows as he laid her gently on the bed. "Remember what I asked you?" she whispered. "To be gentle?" "I remember everything you've ever said to me." He traced her face with fingers that trembled slightly. "I'll be so gentle, Natalie. We have all the time in the world." And as Vincent kept his promise, worshipping her with a tenderness that brought tears to her eyes, Natalie understood that sometimes the most unexpected encounters led to the most extraordinary love stories. Later, as they lay entwined, watching the sun rise over Chicago, Vincent pressed a kiss to her forehead. "What are you thinking?" he asked. "That my life is never going to be the same." "Is that good or bad?" She turned in his arms, looking into the eyes of the man who'd changed everything. "It's perfect." Marcus was released from the hospital a week later, walking without crutches for the first time in 2 years. The photographers eventually moved on to other scandals. Victoria found a new target for her venom, and Natalie? She finished medical school, becoming Dr. Natalie Brooks, with Vincent cheering the loudest at her graduation. She opened a free clinic in her old neighborhood, funded by the Blackwood Foundation but run entirely on her terms. They married 2 years later in Giuseppe's restaurant, with Mr. Giuseppe crying happy tears and Marcus giving her away. The headlines this time read, "A love story for the ages." And for once, the gossip rags got something right, because sometimes, when a virgin trusts a billionaire with her heart, she discovers that the greatest risk leads to the greatest reward. And sometimes, just sometimes, the fairy tale turns out to be true. The end.